Okay, everybody, it's 8 a.m. I'll call the, Madison Metropolitan Sewerage District Commission meeting to order. Welcome to all of our guests. Cassie, could you go through the virtual meeting guidance, please?
Good morning, Commissioners, members of the public, and staff. To help us have a smooth meeting, I'm going to review just a few decorum rules for all. While the Commission and staff are in person, we are still offering a Zoom option so members of the public can attend. If you are attending virtually and would like to speak, you can do so during appearances by the public. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and streamed live on YouTube, and the public chat has been disabled, but you can still send messages to the host if need be. Finally, Commissioners, please use your microphones while speaking and make sure your voice is directed towards the mic. When you're not speaking, please ensure that your mic is off so others can utilize the mics. As a reminder, only 3 of the table mics can be live at a time. Also, please state your name before speaking for those who may be joining us via Zoom. Those are the decorum rules of the District Commission. Thank you for following them, and let's have a great meeting.
Okay, thank you, Cassie. Any announcements? Brad?
I've got one. I just wanted to let everybody know that I've decided to resign from the commission effective at the end of October. It's been a pleasure working with you all and staff, and figured 11 years was about enough. So I know it pales in comparison to Tom's 34, but it's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you, Brad, for your service. More of you. Okay. Theron Jacobson's going to introduce Adam Cairo, our new industrial electrician apprentice.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to introduce Adam Cairo, our electrical apprentice. He is a native of Kenosha. He was a graduate from Edgewood in 2018 in criminal justice to pursue a game warden, but decided the trades were more appealing. So he went back to MATC for electrical controls and recently worked at a factory down in Janesville and at Fitchburg Public Works. Personally, Adam and his wife have 2 dogs, and they're expecting a +1 this fall. And he has ties for hobbies up in the Northwoods, as most of us do, enjoys boating and the never-ending projects at home. And we are also a +1 for Brewers fans at the district. So join me in welcoming Adam.
Welcome, Adam. And, we should recognize Paul Kent is back, service filling in for Vanessa. Okay, any appearances by the public? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent calendar where we have the minutes, cash statement, capital fund, 4 different sanitary sewer extensions, pneumatic ejector purchase, acceptance of work for the crosstown force main saddle tapping sleeve replacement project, review of bids and award of contract operation building IT UPS replacement, and review of proposals and award of contract engineering on-call master services agreement. Any questions on any of those items? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve?
This is Commissioner Freeze. I'll move approval.
Motion by Commissioner Freeze.
Second, Commissioner Meyer.
Second by Commissioner Meyer. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Okay. That will move us to topics. Eric, you're going to do a study session on the budget overview.
Yeah, thank you. Eric Dundee, Executive Director. So today I'm here to give you your first preview of the 2027 budget. So before we get started here, we're going to center on a few things. Maybe? So we're going to center on a few things here. So first things to center on for 2027 is clear operating budget instructions. So we know with staff, and then we've worked with the Finance Committee, that in 2025, the district's operating expenses, we underspent by about $4.5 to $5 million. You can look at that in 2 ways. One, we didn't accomplish the work that we were planning to do, and we over-collected from customer communities. The other way you can look at that is that we did not spend money that was not needed to be spent. Either way you look at it, reality is we underspent by $4.5 million. We also know that we were tracking this year with the Finance Committee through the first quarter of this year, and we are right on target. The second quarter, we are starting to get that information in and plan to provide that to the Finance Committee on Monday. We're slightly under 50% at this point, but we are not too far away. So for me, with staff, it is not about making big changes in the operating budget, but it's about being clear with the strategic plan. What is in your work plan, and do we have that money in the budget and the staff to complete that work? So that is the things we've been working on internally with the operating budget. It's more about granularity and clarity of what we're going to do and how we're going to accomplish it than it is about putting what I would call the kitchen sink in and hoping you're going to get it done. Other things is honoring customer community's request. The past few years, and as my tenure as executive director, customer communities have asked that we only collect what is needed. I can tell you the last 2 years, that was the goal. This year is the same goal, but it is not going to come with the same results of a lower service charge. So I'm building up here to the next slide on what my goal is on service charges. The other thing is we know failure is not an option. We provide a service to the communities that we serve, every resident and visitor to the Madison area. We need them to be able to remove their wastewater, we treat it, and send it back to the environment. So we are not going to back down from the investments we need to do. We know nationwide, American Society of Civil Engineers has a grade for wastewater of D+. We've talked about this over the past few years about the aging infrastructure that's coming due for us. So by avoiding the capital projects and things that we need to get done, all we're going to do is exacerbate the problem. So I am trying to find that fine line between getting the things we need done and keeping affordability and rates. As we talk about investing in the future for the communities, we do need to recognize the district's, what I would call my vision for how we serve our communities. I do not want to be the sewer district that stops communities from planning and doing what they want to do in their communities. So that means development, expansion, bringing in businesses that help them, industries. We want to be the ones that help serve them, not stop them. And then the last is a recognition for the commission. We have put the strategic plan and the 3-year plan document at your tables today because you spent a long time working on the strategic plan. We've toiled over a different piece of this over and over again. And as a staff, we used this throughout the budget process and getting to where we are now. As we go into this next slide, thank you, Lynn, I want to stress the goal, the word goal. My goal is that we are going to get to a 10 to 12% service charge increase. You can imply that we are above that right now in our early projections, and we are continuing to look at this. But we also know that there are so many things we don't have done yet. We have a new bid last Friday, liquid processing improvement plan project. We got the bid price on that. So now you'll see in the next meeting an adjustment of the project total cost. But I'm going to unfortunately steal Lisa and Kaylin's thunder. That project bid, 2 competitive bids, the lowest bid was $90.9 million. So we, the engineer's estimate was $85 million. So the last estimate for them. But for us, we have to update the capital fund. We have to update the forecast. We have to do other things for the district too. So There's lots of different things we need to do with forecasting non-service revenue, non-service charge revenue, department operating budgets, update where we're spending for the CIP now and what we're projecting for next year. So we have many, many more steps to go to get to September, but I wanted to be very transparent with the commission where we're at and where we're trying to get to. So, next slide, please. As you look at the strategic plan, and we've talked about this in many different ways as we went through the strategic plan, we have our 3 values. Service, I talked about it already before. No failure. We have to be here 24 hours a day responding to ourselves in the collection system and customer communities. We have to be reliable. If somebody calls with an emergency, we have to be there. And when I say somebody, I mean staff to staff and us to the public. And then sustainability. This is something that we've talked about as a commission work item to talk about sustainability in the future. Well, you're going to see here as I go through the presentation, there is some sustainability items built in here, but I want to make sure that we define sustainability as all-encompassing. It's not just environmental, it's social, it's about financing, it's being sustainable in all the things that we do. The other part is, you have it in front of you, is the performance areas. We are trying to balance all of these performance areas with the 2027 budget. So we're already making decisions internally about prioritizing what is and what isn't in the operating budget. We're doing the same thing with the CIP. What are the things we have to get done? How do we deliver this? Those things. Also the KPIs in the 3-year plan. Today, actually, in the Executive Director report, I'm going to be giving you guys the first update on the 3-year plan projects that we have in here. And a quick sneak peek is I'm going to be thanking a lot of staff. With the focus of the 3-year plan, when you go through that report, if you see it in the packet, and when I talk today, there's a lot of accomplishments. We are streamlining things, we are focusing, and we are accomplishing things on time and with the proper amounts of budget that we had. It's really a success story for me. Okay, so let's break down the budget. 3 buckets. We're going to talk about these buckets as factors of the service charges. So when I talk about the big bucket, we're talking about the items that are going to swing the service charges more than the things in the medium bucket. And let's just stop a second. That 3rd bucket is not empty. It's just not overflowing. So those are the things that we're working on that, you know, I would call it small things in the budget that can make big impacts. So, but I really want to center us on big bucket, big swings in the service charges, medium bucket, things that will swing it all the time. We'll get to that. And then the small bucket where you have to use your imagination. There are coins and things in there. So let's go ahead with the big bucket. We already talked about it, but for us, CIP investment is the reason for the big bucket today and in the future. I mean, we will not get away from this being a big bucket item from today into the future because aging infrastructure. But what's most important for us as a staff is concentrating on our 2 largest projects that we have. I mean, in history, we are $90.9 million of just a construction bid. That's not the whole project cost. And then with our heat and power and biosolids project, that's over $200 million also. So we need to be proactive with rates, make sure that we have the money in the future so that we don't come back in a future year and say we need 30% service charge increases. So this is about planning. This is about doing the job. I can also tell you, though, with the heat and power and biosolids, I am making a commitment to this being one project for the district. Our history with liquid processing is breaking it into 3 phases. If it would have stayed 1 phase, it may be done by now. But instead, we are in phase 2 after 10 years of a facility plan, and phase 3 in our CIP is not planned next year even. So we're creeping up on almost 20 years of a plan being done, to actually implementing in construction. I do not want to do that. If the commission wants to discuss that further, we can do that. But I am interested in finding ways to be able to do this. So we'll talk about that more in a few slides. The next slide in this is actually one of those interesting things for us in the big bucket. So I'm actually proposing for these two projects 2 new positions in engineering, because we have done an analysis, and based on consulting costs, if we hire 2 people, each one of those people saves the district about $1 million every 3 years. And we know liquid processing is a 3 to 4 year construction project. We know our heat and power biosolids project is right after that, another 3 to 4 years. So what I am here proposing is 2 positions that is actually a cost-saving measure for the district versus having consulting services. To explain that a little further, our liquid processing project, we are estimating needing 2 to 3 or 4 staff internally and 2 to 3 to 4 external consulting services to deliver that construction project. It's so big, there are pieces of the construction that we don't have expertise in. We are not a structural engineering firm or have that on staff. Those are services we need no matter what. But there are services we can provide internally versus using a consultant for it, and that's where we're saving our money. Next slide, please. So now we're going to move to the medium bucket. Let's save them to the end. Thanks. For the medium bucket, we're talking about 3-year plan items. So we've talked about the ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning. That's our finance, that's our HR, that's our budgeting. That's going great. That's my opinion. We are moving into phase 2. We are on time. We're making hard decisions. It's going well. Now it's time to do the other half of our upgrade, which is our Enterprise Asset Management Program. So our existing program does a little bit of both, not so well. Well, this is the time now we have to start moving into the maintenance side of things and asset management thing. So same situation here where we are moving into this without somebody on staff to be that service provider as staff. It's a new program. We don't have anybody here to handle that new program. So for me, this is that situation where 2027 will require a new position for that new system. This is the support person. This is the person who's going to help do data cleanup while we're implementing. This is the support person who's going to help all the supervisors here have training on it, make sure things are going well. They are the ones that are here for the future. This is not just an implementation. This is for a future. Other things in the medium bucket. So we do have commitments that we have to make sure that we're taking care of. With our change in our outfalls, our Yahara Winds contribution needs to be adjusted. So going to 1 outfall at Badfish Creek means that based on the phosphorus loading in the intergovernmental agreement, the district now has to increase our commitment $260,000. That is a non-negotiable. That is part of our regulatory compliance. That is part of the option that we chose. Other things we have is the inflationary increases. We're all very well aware of inflation in the United States, and when utility bills like power, water, even our wastewater goes up, everybody has to pay. Well, we have to pay our fair share too. But one note I wanted to give as an extreme example. In our headworks process, we remove the debris, the grit, the garbage, and we're trying to press out the water before we put it into a dumpster to take it to the landfill. If you put all that water in, you end up paying for that water. We don't want that. One piece of equipment went from $12,000 up to over $30,000 for replacement. One little piece of equipment for us. $30,000 isn't little in dollar amount, but for us, we have multiple of these units. So we are trying to track and maintain what inflation is doing on these parts and pieces and make sure we have enough money to be able to replace them when we have that. Another thing is, early indication for us is that market adjustment for our industry is 2.5%. We do not have, once again, this is a preview. We don't have a final determination yet from our consultant to give us what the analysis is, but early indication is 2.5%. So I wanted to be transparent, put that out there, and show everybody that. Okay, now in the little bucket. This is in the, you can't see it on the screen, but it's in the bucket. This is what I'd like to call our long-term vision items. These are the things we do as a district that make us the district. That's how I like to explain this. Our PFAS sampling compliance program and program. We know we got a new permit. We know we have additional sampling to be done. But we also don't want to disregard the 5 years of dedicated work our staff has done on the PFAS program and stop the future, which our future is going out into the system and finding indicators and where things are coming in. That work still needs a commitment. So that is in our budget, just like the last 5 years, but that is not going away. That is a long-term program for us and, frankly, for us to be a leader in this area. KPI development. The district spent a lot of time with the commission on our key performance indicators. As we went through those, the commission noted this, staff already knew it. Some of our indicators, we need to develop them. We need to be able to figure out what is the right information we need, how do we develop it, how do we do that. Two specific areas of that is reliability, or infrastructure reliability with our NESI curve, for those who mentioned that when we went through it. There's a lot of work to be done to get that. The same can be said for public trust. We know we want some sort of feedback. We need that for public, we need that for stakeholders. But we are also not the complete survey experts to understand what that is, so we're going to ask for support to be able to do that. The whole point is we did a strategic plan with key performance indicators. We said they're important. Let's develop them and make them important so that we can measure them and report on them. Artificial intelligence. So this is one that I'll talk openly about for the district that is all about all the questions that we don't have answers to. So with artificial intelligence for us, creating some sort of policy guidelines is important. We have everything from known cybersecurity threats on water and wastewater infrastructure in the United States. That is a known thing. We have a new set of equipment going in that is going to have machine learning. We also have meetings with many stakeholders and entities that the first thing that happens is an AI note taker shows up. We know those note takers, there are multiple out there, that the disclaimer is they can use any information that is said in that meeting to continue to build their model. I believe for the district, we need to get some sort of ground rules on all of these things. We're not talking about getting so detailed that we're going to know every little thing. This is an evolving topic for the district, but those are just 3 examples of we need to actually pay attention to this and have some sort of guidance for staff and consultants and people who work with us. Strategic funding services. So this is something I really want to hit on. I talked to you about our CIP, our capital improvement plan, our big commitments. We as a district have not played in the realm of going to find more grants and more ways to get free, I'm going to say the word again, free money. The Clean Water Fund loan for us for the state revolving fund, fantastic program. That is a great way for us to have loans. I want to have not loans. I want to have matches where there's other money. We know we have these CIP projects for that, and I firmly believe there's opportunities out there for us not to just go after big dollar amounts, but even little dollar amounts. But we don't have a full team of staff to go do that. We don't have the knowledge on where all the opportunities are. So I am proposing that we actually intentionally get some services for the district to do these things. I do not want to put hopes and dreams into your minds, but I'm going to tell you about some of the programs. There are programs out there for energy projects, for biosolids projects, for innovation. that have 50% match, 60% match, even capped out at $1 million, $5 million. Every little bit helps. And right now, we are not doing that with our capital projects. It's time. The other thing is research. So we as a district, it's been important. Research is important. We want to be leaders in that. One thing that was identified in our liquid processing project was the need for having expanded primary clarification at the district. With the loadings that are coming in, you know, we have talked about our flow has not went up very much, but the loadings continue to rise. Well, there was a lot of discussion about the loadings and do we need to add more primary clarifier tanks. After review, there's really no good space to put a new primary clarifier. So our treatment plant group, our new treatment plant group, has a research project proposal to me that I firmly support, that I want in this budget, to see if we can be better in the process in our primary clarifiers. This is not large dollar amount items, all these things in this bucket, but each one of them in their own is pushing the district forward a little bit. So let's go ahead and recap. Goal, I'll say it again, goal is 10 to 12%. We have lots and lots of work to do to get to that point in September. Slowly but surely, that service charge band of where we're going to be at will narrow. I'll be able to give updates as the commission wants, which we'll talk about in a second. But really, everything is driven off of our CIP right now. These two big projects plus the other work that is required is going to continue to really just tell us what the CIP service charges are. And we should all understand that with me talking about this strategic funding, the more funding that we can get that is free, the less the debt service goes up, which means less there's, you know, that strict payment that's required no matter what. So this is a very big driver for us. This is something we're concentrating on. The other is just recapping 3 positions. We're talking about cost-saving positions with the very large projects we have, and then we have the new EAM, Enterprise Asset Management System, that we have no support on. If you don't do internal support for that project or in Continuum, you're going to pay consulting fees forever. I would like to be ahead of that and have somebody in-house who is our expert. Upholding the district values, you know, service, reliability, sustainability, and then also grounding in the strategic plan. I want to emphasize how much work our executive management team did with our managers and supervisors in the operating budget on making sure, if you look at the bottom line of the strategic plan, the bottom section is work plans. All of this work that we are proposing is in the work plans. For the district, that is about alignment and us being able to deliver on our promises. So that's what we have. Next steps, as we move through to September and begin that budget process, many bullets on the screen because we have lots of touch points. You as a commission may want more. We'll get to that in a second. But as you go, the CIP, Capital Improvements Plan overview will happen at the next meeting. We do plan to have our customer communities budget preview with Dane County cities and villages, and then we start introduction in September. That isn't that far away. So we as staff have a lot of work to do to get to that point. Lots of answers to get, but that's what we're aiming for. So I have some discussion points, but I did note Commissioner Freeses wanted to ask some questions early, so.
Go ahead, Greg.
Well, first, I guess, just since this was just an overview, sorry, Commissioner Freeze, since this was just an overview, how far do you want to dig into this? I guess this is just topical for you, Eric.
Yeah, we'll dig in until I say I don't know, and then that's where we'll stop and come back later.
Okay. Then I had 2 that popped in first, so we'll go in reverse order here. For the grant services, so we do something like this. I assume you're talking about hiring a consultant to help you find the grants rather than bringing that in-house, or is that correct?
Yeah, for the district specifically, Amanda Wagner is helping me with that right now. We are doing an RFI, request for information, because we know, not only do we not know where the grants and the opportunities are, we don't know what specific words you want to be able to put in these to be able to meet that criteria. We also don't have on staff a lobbyist. And a lot of the very large grants and very large opportunities that are out there at the federal level and state level require you to get support from some representative in that arena. And we don't have that right now. So yes, for sure, a Hunter consultant is needed for that.
All right, and that's good. That's what I was going to recommend, because they can bring a lot more wide knowledge, you know, and touch points for that you can't get, you know, in-house. Or at least it would be very difficult to get in-house. Okay, my other question was with regard to your staffing, your engineering staffing. I am curious how your two positions, I think it was, are going to save you $1 million. Is that what I heard you say? Correct? And so I'll preface my understanding. Generally speaking, you, for your big projects, as I understand it, your process, or our process, I should say, your engineers are project managers as opposed to project designers. And historically, when we have farmed stuff out, complicated stuff, you have to keep the consultant on through the contract process. If there are contract questions, they are the engineer of record. They have to address those conflicts, the, you know, construction issues that come up. So I'm a little unsure where the value is.
Yeah, so I'll talk about this at a higher level, get into some detail, but with caution. So we already know the construction services required for liquid processing phase 2. We know that proposal from the consultant and how many people they are proposing to cover that project on top of the staff that we have. For those that have had any past in consulting services, specifically engineering, there's multipliers applied to each person. We are able to pull that information out of these proposals and realize that over 3 years, one full-time person doing inspection, document management, doing all the things, is like $1.6 million. Round numbers for staffing, 3 years, engineering, salary, benefits, things like that, is around $500,000. So for us, we know the projects are so large that you need many people on it. So just basically bringing that service in-house, which could be all the document management, it could be all the inspections on certain processes, things like that. We take that on, we reduce that number of staff needed from the consultants. We also know, and I noted specifically for us, one of the positions we are specifically looking at is electrical engineering. We have 2 electrical engineers on staff, and our liquid processing project has new blowers, new controls, new all the things. Well, bring somebody on, and now you have support for that. We also know that with our heat and power and biosolids project, same thing's going to happen with aging infrastructure. Lots of new control panels, new wiring, new ways to do things. So this engineering, specifically the electrical engineering person, we've already known this has been a short area for us as a district. We are in a situation now with the amount of project engineers we have and electrical engineers. Instead of our electrical engineering being the support for all the projects, they have had to become the project managers, which now reduces the amount of support that we have. So that is one of the specific ways we're looking at this, is add another electrical engineer, and now add that project engineer to get them away from the project management so they can do the support and inspection things. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, it does, and I would certainly agree. Look, you know,
you know, typically wastewater is considered a civil engineering practice, but as you get more complicated, right, here, the electronic controls that you guys have to run are way outside the expertise and knowledge base of most civils, right? It's just not something, so that I can totally see, and I appreciate that. Then I assume you're gonna have to change your contract with whoever the designer was to, or not, or take on duties and not pay them, right? Or not have them do duties that are potentially in that contract, right?
Yeah, so that's a great bridge to the next meeting we will have. The liquid processing Phase 2 project will be coming to the commission for approval and project update. It'll also have construction services as part of that. Now, we are in a weird in-between here, so we do not have any approvals for budget and positions. So the engineering contract, you know, we're not aiming to change that in any way from an initial proposal because we don't have any guarantees that a new position will be here. But yeah, that is the idea, is that you amend the contract or you just don't use the services that are there. So, yep.
Okay, anybody else? So I got a question on the contract. Paul, is there something they can put in the contract that the district may, instead of having to go back and formally amend it, that they have the capability to move services to the district rather than if they get budget approval?
There should be ways to do that, at least if we can add prospectively, doing it for contracts that are already in the works.
Yeah, Lisa Coleman, engineering manager, helped me out from behind too. She said that's just services not rendered also, so it just won't be charged. It's not like it's a lump sum cost that you're forced into.
But I don't want a situation where the contractor, brand or whoever, thinks they're hiring staff, backfill those needs, and then we hire staff, backfill those needs, and they'll say, wait a minute, our contract said we're gonna be providing these services, but we've anticipated that, now you're gonna take it over. No, you know, I want to avoid any conflict like that.
Understood.
Anybody else? Ezra?
Just a quick clarifier, Eric, Commissioner Meyer here. The medium bucket item on Yahar Wind's contributions, just checking that's a $260,000 increase annually, not life of the project, right?
I'll actually get back to you on that for the clarification.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bookland, just a request. Well, it seems apparent that we need these 3 new positions, but I would like more information on both the short and long-term needs and plans for these 3 new positions. So, you know, I understand that they're needed for the CIP and for the electrical equipment and complexities, but I'd like to see, you know, long-term what you're thinking about these positions, and actually long-term about organizational changes too. So not only these new 3 positions, but where we see the organization going long-term.
Dan?
Commissioner Pulp, you had in the small bucket or whatever you called it, there it says you're doing PFAS sampling. Are you doing salt sampling too? Because that seems to be our biggest problem in the short term because of the state's new regulations that we have to. Are you sampling that? Figure out where it's coming from?
Yeah, thank you. Chlorides is one of the normal parameters that we're sampling for. And that's actually part of our operations report that Alan gives. So that's at the treatment plant.
Yeah, but do you know where it's coming from? I mean, is it coming from a certain area that's causing our whole salt issue, or is it everywhere? Alan can maybe answer that later too. We didn't know if it's specific to a certain area that we need to identify, or is it just everybody?
Yeah, thank you for giving me the out there. We will come back with a discussion on that.
Okay, anybody else? Patrick?
So, Commissioner Lytle, you mentioned the benefits we're already seeing with the ERP upgrade, and expect to see similar benefits with the enterprise asset management system. I may have entered this midstream, but I'm assuming through the development process of that project, we're preparing some kind of business case analysis to present the benefits we hope the district will receive, both in terms of enhanced effective useful life, staff time involved with tracking maintenance records, all those kind of things, to say, by investing in improved capabilities with asset management, district can expect to realize, whether it's actual physical asset costs coming down, whether it's not needing to hire additional staff as we have more complicated controls and other systems in place, that kind of thing. But I think thinking about that ahead of time and documenting some of the costs that we won't see as a result in making that investment would help justify that project, and I'm sure that's already in progress, but as a commission, I think that would be really helpful.
Okay, anyone else? Eric?
So the technology is great these days. So Marty Griffin has helped me answer some of the questions already. So yes, Yahara Winds increase is annual. Yes, we sample and monitor for chlorides, and Emily Jones will be up here soon presenting, and she can talk about the known sources.
Ezra?
Commissioner Meyer here. One other thought came to mind. We're early in the process, and to my mind, this might be a useful thing to think about conveying to all the audiences. I mean, us and everybody else who's paying attention, communities and the public, et cetera. It was a big kind of inflection point change for us to go this last year from a very smoothing-oriented approach to looking at service charge increases year to year to this sort of just-in-time, or, kind of this new way we're doing it, where it's like only exactly what we need now, and next year only exactly what we need, but that becomes blockier, kind of lumpier, and people are going to be experiencing sticker shock, seeing a double-digit number. I can predict. I think I'll be right. I think we, to the extent we can sort of really help folks understand that difference of how we're doing it now, and even keep checking with customer communities to make sure, so now you're looking at this one. How are you feeling now, guys? Is this what you want? Does this feel better than the other way we used to do it? I know we heard a lot of different feedback. I heard it and took it in, but I'm not sure. For me, my jury's out on which is the right way to kind of do it long term. Here's an opportunity to sort of show, 1 year right after the other. It can look like this or it can look like this. How do we feel, folks? And that's a question for the commission too. We all have to weigh that as sort of our, representatives of the customer communities. To the extent we can find ways to talk about that and help make that really transparent, really out front for folks to be thinking about it, I think would be valuable through the rest of the process here this year. Thank you.
Yeah, Eric Dundee, Executive Director. One thing I'll note on that too is this year does have more inflection to it because the costs of some of our big projects are becoming more real. So over the past couple of years, we've been doing these facility plans for biosolids and heat and power. Now that cost estimate is becoming more real. We were doing our best we could to understand what the costs were going to be, not be, and now liquid processing, we have the bid price. Biosolids, heat and power, we have facility plan one finished and one to be finished in the third quarter of this year. Every step we take, that cost estimate will adjust, and that will create some of those big swings that you were talking about, Commissioner Meyer. So, yeah, this is the 2027 forecast. Then in 28, we'll adjust those numbers again.
I have a question for Greg, see if you're awake. So if we increase it 10%, say, does the city pass that 10% on to the customers, or does the city eat some of that?
No, the city passes, well, the utility is a utility, so it has to, it's a zero-sum game, right? It has to break even. So all of those costs would be strictly a pass-through. Madison Met is somewhere in the neighborhood of 60% of our budget for the sewer utility. So every dollar the district increases, mine has to go up by 60 cents at a minimum, even if I do absolutely nothing else.
Commissioner Buckland, just a comment. We're in kind of weird times right now with inflation and the cost of gas and some of the utilities. You mentioned that earlier, Eric, but I think in communicating with our customer communities, I think it's important to make sure that, we include that factor into our discussions, because we're all affected by it at all different levels. I mean, from paying our own utility bills on a personal basis to, having the bills have to be paid by the district. So, and we don't know where that's going to end, or how much inflation is going to affect, but it is going to affect the district. So I think we need to continue to factor that into our communication with our customer communities and in our, estimate. And also in increases in salaries for our personnel too, because that's going to have to be factored into all of that. So just a comment. Thanks.
Yeah, I'd actually like to respond to that too, because that is something we discuss internally for staff. That is what I would call the beauty of having the CIP and having our operating budget and our full service charges be updated every year. We have to do a lot of work to do it every year, but at least we are now forecasting what that inflation looks like at this point in time. And then this time next year, we will be able to update that. So we're not locking ourselves into some long-term assumption that stays there. So I appreciate that comment, and we'll make sure to highlight that in some of the messaging.
Okay, anybody else? I think we're completed with this discussion. Audrey has to leave at 10, so probably be going well beyond that given other items on the agenda. So that will move us to Emily on the chloride minimization. I just wanted to say something. Brad's going to have to develop a golf ball that can be seen in smoke. You might make quite a killing.
Okay. All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Emily Jones. I'm a pollution prevention specialist. The pollution prevention team works to reduce sources of pollutants to the sewer system that can cause regulatory, operational, or environmental issues. One of those, I know you all know, is chloride. So I'm here to give a project update about one of our priority projects in chloride reduction right now, which is reducing softener salt to the sewer system by using water softener blending valves. So the district needs to meet our chloride limit. That's one of our permitted pollutants. So we need to reduce it. We need to meet this limit, but as you know, our process is not designed to remove it, so what we receive leaves. Many years ago, in 2015, we worked with a consultant to evaluate our different options for complying with our chloride limit. And we found that the technological solutions have some major drawbacks. One option is to remove hardness at drinking water wells, but this would be expensive and administratively complex. We have decentralized drinking water wells, so deciding which wells to soften, that's just more technology to build and maintain too, and would require the removal of point-of-use softeners. There's also chloride removal at the wastewater plant here at Nine Springs. So that would essentially be desalinating a very small portion of the flow, a side stream, so not even all of our flow. And it would generate a concentrated waste brine that would need special disposal. The bottom line is this would be extremely expensive and energy intensive, so it would have a major impact on our rates and our emissions. So we found that those options are not the way we want to go. So instead we're pursuing compliance through pollution prevention, source reduction. So pollution prevention is less expensive than those technological compliance options, more energy efficient because we're avoiding those massive increases in emissions from treatment. And the important thing is they're comprehensive and long-term. We are in the position we are today with excessive salt because we're using salt unsustainably. The status quo is to use too much salt. So if we can change the way that we use salt, we're setting ourselves up for a more sustainable status quo in the long term. As a condition of our chloride variance, we have a pollutant minimization plan, or PMP, like we do for other pollutants with variance, or we have in the past. A PMP includes a suite of tools that you can see here, from research to training to incentives to technology and more. And that's so we can match the right solution to the right challenge. So we keep all of these different approaches in our plan so we can apply them as relevant to whatever our challenge is causing elevated pollution. And that brings us to water softeners. In the study that was completed with AECOM, we have an estimate here of the sources of chloride to the plant. So we focus on all the sources of chloride to the plant as part of our PMP, but we particularly focus on water softening because that is the major source of chloride to the plant. We have very, very hard water in this area from our drinking water wells, and so most every building, business has a water softener that's continuously discharging chloride to our system. And so to reduce that water softener salt, there are basically two main paths. One is we can increase the efficiency of water softeners, and we can reduce the volume of water softened. So first I'm going to talk about what we've done historically in our PMP to increase the efficiency of water softeners. So a summary here is we've offered incentives. We've offered grants and rebates for commercial softener improvements, as well as discounted home softener upgrades and optimizations as part of a Salt Savers program we ran a few years ago. We've also conducted extensive education and outreach. We've trained plumbers, softener professionals, and maintained close ties with the water softener industry to make sure that that sector is aware of our issue and they know what to do to improve the efficiency of water softeners. In pollution prevention, implementing our strategy, we learn and adapt. So we see what's working and we adapt our strategy accordingly if we're running into challenges. And we found that there are limitations of focusing solely on water softener efficiency upgrades. So this isn't to discount that. Water softener efficiency is still important, but it's not the only thing that we should be focusing on. We found through our experience in our PMP that there are barriers to consumer action. Water softeners are relatively high cost and a low return on investment as far as the salt savings from installing a high efficiency softener. And ultimately, it's voluntary to replace your softener. And whether the barrier is financial or just it's not very high on someone's to-do list, to get a critical mass of voluntary softener upgrades is not realistic. And mathematically, the reductions from softener efficiency improvements themselves may not be enough. So even the high efficiency softeners, remember we have very hard water here, so if we're softening most to all of our water, even with an efficient softener, that softener still might be discharging at a level that's not going to be meeting the chloride limit that we want to reach. And those efficiency upgrades aren't forever. Remember, we want to focus on comprehensive and long-term solutions. And water softeners have a lifespan, roughly 15 years or so. And as they're losing efficiency, we don't want to end up in the same position we are today in 15 years and say, well, do we need to incentivize people continuously to replace their softeners so they're more efficient? And so we want to focus on changing that status quo so we don't have to keep readdressing this question. So the other path to reducing chloride is to soften less water. Our status quo in this area is to soften most everything, both hot and cold water, just having zero hardness coming through that softener into a building. But we're starting to reevaluate that. To dig in further, there are these different options you can use to soften less water. One is to disconnect systems from the softener. Now, this is kind of all or nothing. So whatever water coming into the house is connected to the softener is going to leave 100% soft, containing 0 grains of hardness, but anything that isn't is 100% hard. And so that can be a big ask for people. This is something that we're working to change, but we're focusing on feasible solutions, getting solutions that both consumers and the plumbers, the water softener technicians are comfortable with implementing, so it's realistic that this is going to take place. So another option to soften less water is to blend soften and hard water. So produce a mixture of soft water and hard water, so overall you have an average water hardness that's much lower and more manageable than unsoftened water coming into the home. But it's not 100% soft, so it doesn't rely so much on using softener salt. This is a table that shows that spectrum of water hardness. So, there are these extreme ends. So we've got 0 to 3.5 grains per gallon of hardness, defined as soft. And again, water leaves the softener at 0 grains per gallon hardness, 100% soft. And then over 10.5 grains per gallon is considered very hard water. The minimum water hardness in our area starts at about 14 grains per gallon and gets up close to 30 grains per gallon. So it's safe to say that all the water in our area is considered very hard. But, we don't talk so much about this middle range, so moderately hard or hard. So when you get down between 3.5, maybe 7 grains per gallon, it's not very hard like our water here, and so proportionately there's less of a chance of hardness issues and scale buildup from water at those hardness levels. So I include the example of Lake Michigan up here and its natural hardness of about 7 to 8 grains per gallon because, for anybody who's from Milwaukee, there's a much different status quo about softening there. A lot of people don't have softeners, and they use water at that hard to moderate or moderately hard to hard range, and they don't have those issues. That's gotten us thinking of how can we find that balance between too hard water but too much chloride. So that leads us to blending valves. So this is a picture of one, pretty simple device. It just is installed onto many compatible softeners. This is just one example. There are other brands of softeners that work with these valves. And we've identified a number of advantages. They're inexpensive. So compared to upgrading a whole softener to a high efficiency system, they are much, much more affordable. They're easy to install. I've seen a plumber do it in under 10 minutes. So this is an easy service call. And this is key. They're customizable to consumer preference. So rather than that all or nothing typical method of softening water, this is something that can be dialed in to what a resident actually wants. So it's something that a service that a plumber or water softener technician can offer their customers. And for our purposes, these are intriguing because depending on how they're set up, depending on the conditions, they can reduce salt use from anywhere from 10 to 50%. And so if we were able to scale these up, we would see a significant dent in that primary source of chloride coming to us, which is coming from softeners. So as a very simplified diagram of how that works, so the hard water is coming into a building from the source. If you add that blending valve, it's going to cause some of that hard water to take a U-turn, not go into the softener, divert from the softener, and then blend back in with the softened water, creating slightly hard water. And the higher that blend is of hard water, the less salt the softener is going to have to use. So this is reducing the volume of water softened, which reduces how hard that softener needs to work. So ultimately, it's sending salt to the sewer system less frequently. So what we've been doing in pollution prevention is increasing the adoption of blending valves because they're not widely used here yet. We want to see that change. We know there's precedent, so that gives us some confidence in promoting these as a salt reduction tool. We know that they're already used elsewhere in Europe. In fact, in some places in Europe, they're required to prevent pipes from the corrosion of very soft water. And they're also used in the U.S. because, speaking to that point about consumer preference, people get used to a certain water quality. And we've heard anecdotes of people moving from a Chicago or Milwaukee to our area and saying, this water feels weird. I'm not used to soft water. Can you make it harder? And so sometimes that's added to meet those customers' needs. This is a built-in feature in some softeners, such as the Culligan high-efficiency softener. Our goal is to increase the adoption of blending valves in the service area to reduce overall salt contributions to our sewer system. So we've been trialing blending valves over the past couple of years. So we've worked with Culligan Total Water to increase the use of that built-in dial-a-softness blending valve that I mentioned. And we've also partnered with Dave Jones Plumbing and Tim O'Brien Homes to start small and then scale up blending valves. So this is a great example of a pollution prevention partnership and conversations that led to a change. So we started talking to Tim O'Brien. We introduced the concept of blending valves. They said, we're going to test these out in our employees' homes and see how they feel about it. And their employees said, we didn't notice a change. And they were comfortable enough to start installing that as a default feature on all their new homes, which is huge because every new softener and every new construction is a new salt source to this plant. And so the more we can minimize salt used by softeners at the point of construction, the better we're set up for the future. We also have tested consumer attitudes towards hard water because this is something we want to take to the installers, the plumbers. You know, they want to protect their business. They don't want to get cranky customers and callbacks. And so we wanted to establish that there is consumer demand and tolerance of slightly hard versus completely soft water. So this is a great example of combining partnerships and research and incentives, some of those pollution prevention strategy tools into a project. So we partnered with the City of Middleton and Dave Jones Plumbing, since they were familiar with blending valves, to install blending valves on existing softeners. So people would go from completely soft water to blended water. So our purpose was to assess their experience with that and their acceptance of that slightly hard water. Klatt Corporation, which is a water softener parts manufacturer, water treatment parts manufacturer in Windsor, we've worked with closely. They donated the blending valves so we could retrofit them on these softeners. And those were set up, as you can see here, by a Dave Jones technician to a 25% hardness blend. So going from 0 hardness to about 5 to 6 grains per gallon hardness. And we at the district sent the participants a survey before and after to assess their experience. After 2 months with having the blending valve installed, we asked them, have you noticed more hardness in your water? And what are your future plans for using the blending valve? So again, they were going from 0 hardness to about 5 to 6 grains in that moderately hard range that I showed. And we were encouraged by the results. We saw that a majority of the respondents, we had 42 people participate, 31 sent back their post-installation survey. Most of those respondents didn't notice a change. So 20 people said, I didn't notice a difference. And so for the people who said, yes, I did notice a difference, we asked, how do you feel about that? And also encouraging, either people were neutral or they actually preferred it. Again, some people do want a little bit of hardness in their water. Only 3 people of those 31 said it bothered them a little. And most people said that they were going to keep that blending valve in place. So this is something that is a permanent change to how they're using salts. So our takeaways from this project is that there was overall consumer satisfaction, so people either didn't notice the change or didn't mind it. We had buy-ins from installers. So Dave Jones, through this pilot, found the installations really quick and easy, and actually have since the pilot added blending valve installation to their standard service offerings on their website, so it's becoming more of a norm. So we have concluded that blending valves are a feasible way to reduce chloride. They're less expensive, there's buy-in from the installers, they're easy to install. So we think that they're one of many tools, not the only tool, but this is a compelling tool to reduce chloride to the sewer system. And I want to mention verification that the findings are being reinforced elsewhere. So I mentioned those other examples in Europe. We hear those stories of people changing their water quality. In April, I went down to present about this pilot to the Water Quality Association Conference, which is the national trade organization for water treatment companies and professionals, and heard similar information that was backing up what we've hypothesized through this pilot and what we're basing our blending valve work on. And so this is building confidence that this is something that can be widely adopted. So our next steps in pollution prevention as part of our PMP strategy are to make blending valves the norm. So we're working on increasing the supply, reaching out to plumbing companies and encouraging them to offer blending valves to their customers. We are building technical knowledge, so we've offered training. We talked to members of the Plumbers Union Local 75 earlier this year about blending valves and are planning to do additional training in the future on blending valve benefits, installation, and setup. And we'll also be working with the water treatment industry to learn more about those levels of hardness and kind of dialing in water hardness to a sweet spot where we're minimizing salt and still providing water quality that people need. And we'll be supplementing that with a good deal of community education and outreach to increase the demand for blending valves. So we're working not just on the supply side, but the demand side as well. So just a couple examples of that. So recently, to get more connected with the building community and people who are interested in features of new homes, we partnered with the Madison Area Builders Association to have displays in 2 of their Parade of Homes. You can see here our blending valve promotional display, which is in their garage, and so got a lot of interest from passersby in that. And we have a new website, which, I'll conclude today by making an ask that you all visit this, because we would love for everybody, commission, staff, who is able to install a blending valve to get one on their softener. Because again, we're making this the norm, and so the more we can lead by example, the better. And so that brings me into my conclusion, and I'll take any questions.
Beth?
Commissioner Brooklyn, so how much does a blending valve cost for an individual? And then how much does it cost to install one of these? And can a homeowner install one of these themselves, or do they need to have a plumber? And then, I guess 3 questions. The third question is it sounds really great, and I'm wondering if there is any thinking about long-term offering a rebate for consumers for installing these blending valves, because it sounds like a great plan.
All right, thank you. One, for the cost, kind of ballpark it, because it's going to depend whether it's wholesale or retail, but we're talking maybe $30, $40. But, that also could change wholesale versus retail. With the installation, I can say that with the labor and the part, probably, around $200 maybe. I don't want to hold to a specific number because it's going to depend on the company and just what that service call looks for, but that gives you a really rough ballpark. So, yeah, when we're talking about a new high-efficiency softener being like close to $2,000, much more doable for people. Can you install it by yourself? That I'm not sure off the top of my head whether that would need if there's any, yeah. Yeah, Commissioner Clark.
Commissioner Clark, my answer to that was it depends on how comfortable you are as a homeowner with your plumbing. A plumber, to Emily's point, or a technician can put one in relatively quick. The 2 in and out plumbing for a water softener is pretty much horizontal. Once you soften out a little bit and put the blending valve in, it just needs to be interconnected. That's why a plumber can do it relatively quickly.
All right, and to your last question about a rebate, I'd say it is a tool, but we're not at the point that we'd incentivize those that way yet. One thing that we've been really careful about, that we've learned from previous experiences, is determining if a rebate is the right tool or whether somebody would just do this regardless of whether they're offered funding. So it's almost been surprisingly easy to make this ask. So the Tim O'Brien Homes example was just a matter of having conversations and introducing this concept. If we do find from talking to residents or talking to the installers that a little bit of that financial jumpstart would help them, that's something that we can definitely consider. But we found that a lot of people would just do this as a matter of course. And so I think that we're still evaluating which tool to use to incentivize these more widely.
I have 2 questions, Commissioner Pultz, for Ken. One, is there a way of telling how hard your water is at home? Are you at 0 to 3.5? And if you would put a mixer in with it, would you actually save any money on salt, or is there no savings at all?
You can test your water at home with a test strip, hardness test strip, which is relatively inexpensive. You will save money on salt. Because you're diverting a portion of the water that would go through the softener through the blending valve. So if you set it for 25% less water to go through the water softener, that would be 5%, theoretically, 25% less salt that you would. Yes. Yep.
I got a question. Once the blending valve's installed, is it easy to adjust? So somebody else comes into the home, they decide, oh, I want more softened or more hardened waters, or just a little dial they can move to do that?
It is very easy to adjust. It's kind of an approximation. So it'd be very easy to shut it all the way off. So we don't really want people doing that, but we understand that might be a necessity in some cases. So well,
Little movement makes a big.
Dave Jones was setting it up by comparing the flow between the water softener, so starting it at 2 gallons per minute and then dropping that flow to 1.5 gallons per minute by changing the knob. So it can be done, but it would be proceed with caution. I think for someone like, to Commissioner Clark's point, you would really want to understand what you're doing. For the one I'm thinking of, but there are other types of blending valves, so I'll let you weigh in on.
Yeah, that's a great question. In a perfect world, the blending valve would have a gauge on it to tell you how far open or closed it would. That would be a better solution to your question. But yeah, a little bit of a tweak here and there can change the flow through there pretty quickly.
Just picking up on Commissioner Paul's and Clark's point there about this approach, Emily, you cited the return on investment for a $1,500, capital investment for a home in a new softener or a higher efficiency softener at a few $100 difference, low ROI. But it sounds like mixing valves are pretty high ROI, much better picture on the little, the upfront cost versus how you're going to save on salt over the life. So that's neat. Telling. Thanks for a good presentation.
Yeah, Commissioner Lankilla here. To me, what I understand from personally is being always told hardness actually, cost-wise, not about saving salt. They always scare residents. So it's more about education, that it will be cost more fixing the water heaters or dishwashers. The life goes down as the hardness goes, right? So that is what the selling point for most of the people for adding softeners. So we need to educate more. So if you're increasing 25% of hardness there, are you reducing the life on water heaters and dishwashers and refrigerators? So they're going to look at that price. So education is very important.
Yes, thank you. Totally agree. And this is why we're trying to find that balance, because we've realized that just stopping softening altogether in the absence of another technology that doesn't use salt being implemented widely is impractical, because there is that trade-off with the energy efficiency. And so the appeal of blending valves is that those scale impacts rise as the hardness goes up, but when you get down to those more manageable levels, the scale impacts might be pretty minimal or even negligible. And so this is something that we're still researching and to make connections with people in the industry to figure out, what are those incremental effects at higher hardness levels. But from what we have experienced and what we've seen, we're pretty confident saying that at that 4 to 6 grains per gallon hardness range, you're not going to get those extreme impacts on your water heater and appliances, et cetera, that you would if you're using 25 grains per gallon, for instance.
Thank you. It's Commissioner Lytle. This has been really educational, and I appreciate the presentation. maybe looking ahead just a little bit as we look at further revisions to the sewer use ordinance. I know not all the water coming into my home is softened, so it's a subset of the actual water usage that actually gets softened. In terms of asking communities to revise their plumbing codes as new construction is inspected and or new softeners are installed, is it something we expect as part of our compliance or variance with the DNR? We might take an interim step of requiring that for new construction or replacements versus, you know, somehow expecting communities to go in and inspect every single home to make sure that the softeners are set up in the correct way. We have a view into what the DNR might expect us to do versus, you know, what would be feasible for communities in terms of making some of these improvements?
I think this is a great question and something we'll be considering as far as what we can do and what can be adopted at a local level as far as plumbing code or requirements. But, you know, it's something that we've definitely discussed and will be in our minds. In the state administrative code related to chloride, there are some softening related guidance recommendations. So there is a line about not softening outdoor water, for instance. And so there's a potential for similar recommendations or requirements to come on down the line, but we would need to look into that in more detail.
And just to follow up, I mean, I don't want to criticize the pilot program that was instituted, but I think it would probably be difficult to extrapolate folks who chose to participate in the pilot and their responses to, you know, a large group of people being told they have to do this and how they might react to less soft water in their homes. So I'm sure you have other data to support the fact that some hardness is not really a bad experience for homeowners, but it is probably not feasible to extrapolate too far with that subset.
Yes, agree. So this was one information gathering effort on a small scale, but, you know, we're looking at other sources to back up that basis.
Okay. Ken?
I'd just like to say, Commissioner Clark, the balanced strategy that Emily and Kathy and the Sewerage District have put together on this topic is a good strategy. And education of the consumer is going to be the hurdle over the course of time, but yeah, this is a good plan. And you guys have done a good job of putting it together.
Okay, thanks, Ken. Thank you. That will take us to HR Operational Excellence Program. Angela Tessner.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Angela Tessner, HR Manager. Thank you today for making time so I can talk about operational excellence in human resources. Okay, here's our agenda for this section. I want to talk about the current district HR team and then cultivating a shared purpose, and then talk about the HR current state, and then what the HR work plan is. Here is our current HR team. We provide critical infrastructure for the organization, ranging from providing safety measures to make sure our workers can stay safe, to organizational development to make sure our staff and employees feel supported in developmental efforts. We also have a LTE right now who is acting as our HR business partner, Annette, who is doing mostly the recruitments for us. And then we recently hired Stephen, who is our senior HR specialist who will focus on total rewards. HR would like to partner in cultivating a shared purpose here at the district. We protect the community and environment to deliver on this critical public service. We will continue to build a supportive work culture that champions growth, safety, and operational excellence throughout the employee life cycle. The current state of HR. Right now, we have a very talented and agile team, and they do a lot of work, and we continue to do, the manual processes and all of that. We will continue to align with best practices. What I want to do is make sure that our human capital is at the forefront of everything we do, including the strategic plan. And we do have a performance life cycle. Is it the best in class? Not yet. And do we have developmental opportunities? We do, but there's opportunities to be better in those areas. So here's the HR work plan to achieve operational excellence. I focused on three major buckets. The first one is making data-informed decisions. The ERP will help us in providing on-demand data so we can report out items like what is our turnover, what's our request to fill rate, all of those things. We want to also dismantle barriers and biases in our recruitment process. Again, right now, we want the data to support that. Then we also want to build and support an organizational culture. We want to continue to increase our employee engagement. We want to create work competencies that tie to performance goals. We also want to create meaningful professional development opportunities, not only for our staff here, but also for our leaders. And we're actually kicking off a leadership development course later this fall. And so we're really excited that our leaders can start feeling supported in the important work that they need to do in leading others. And then we just want to make sure that our employees have the tools and resources they need to be successful in their jobs. And then the third bucket is HR becoming a strategic partner. Right now, in our current state, HR is reactive, and we want to be more proactive and more of a transformational team. We want to prioritize and optimize the value for the organization. And we have some pretty lofty goals. What happens when you have such a talented team is they have great ambitions. And so we have goals such as building and maintaining classification and compensation structure that's centered on the specific work we do here at the district. We also want to create templates and tools so employees can actually focus on the important work they have to do and not focus on manual processes that HR needs to collect data on. For example, leave of absence requests and all of those things that seem like a manual process. And those, I just wanted.
Any questions? Patrick.
Thank you, Commissioner Lytle. I'll ask this question because it's something my organization is currently struggling with in terms of the ERP, the HRIS, and our annual performance review process are very disconnected. And I probably should know the answer to this, but with the ERP upgrade through Workday, are we including capabilities for a more automated online employee performance reviews, or is that still handled outside of Workday or ADP or whatever system you all might be using?
So right now, in our current model, we use OnBase, which is a very outdated system. I will tell you the performance management process, even though we have a performance life cycle, doesn't make it meaningful and impactful. Like right now, employees set goals, and then we talk about if they're meeting those goals, but it can be more meaningful if we have a competency-based model. We would need to build that, and that is probably a 3 to 5 year project. And there are going to be capabilities in the ERP. Since ERP has been mentioned multiple times, we will kick off that phase 2 in November, and that will be active and ready to go in July, but we also need a stabilization period. We're doing a lot of SKUs in phase 2. SKUs are the modules We are doing a lot in phase 2, so we just need some time to stabilize, and then we want to focus on that competency-based performance. But yes, there is opportunity for us to connect all of those.
Hi, Commissioner Bookland. Thank you. It was good to hear the update and what's going on in HR. I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts on training and promotions and session planning for the organization as a whole and HR as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. When you have competency-based models, you can define what leadership competencies are, and then you have an opportunity to help people in the organization build and grow in those areas. So they are ready when a leadership opportunity becomes available, which helps with succession planning. Are we there yet? No. Will we get there? I have confidence.
Thanks, Angela. Good presentation. I don't know what total rewards means. I'm going to presume I'm not alone, and I wonder if there's a quick thumbnail way you could describe, because I know that was a strategic new direction when we had that opportunity to hire a new person. And so tell us why that was a, special strategic opportunity for you in HR and what it means. Thank you.
Yeah, it's important as we grow as an organization that we are building a talented and agile team throughout the organization. And once they're here, we have to retain them. And that's where total rewards comes in. Are we doing the best we can when it comes to classification and compensation? Are we doing the best we can when it comes to our benefits that we offer? We spend a lot of time and resources in recruiting the best talent. We need to do the same effort in keeping them here and providing what they want to be an engaged employee.
Thought I had turned it on. Excuse me. That'll take us to Eric on the executive director update and then the 3-year plan report.
All right, thank you, Eric Dundee, Executive Director. So just wanted to make note for commission that we have now went through our organizational fill through directors and now managers, and we are at supervisors. So just wanted to note 2 of the newest people on the district leadership team. So we have Theron Jacobson, who you heard from earlier, as our maintenance manager, and then Roy Rodriguez, who was an electrician for us, who is now our electrical maintenance supervisor. So wanted to note that. I have Amanda here to take care of the next item, and then I'll be back in a second.
Good morning, Commissioners. Amanda Wegner, Communications and Public Affairs Manager here at the district. So you see before you our proposed commission schedule calendar. Meeting calendar for 2027, it pretty much stays on course with our regular plan of every, or the second and fourth Friday, unless it's a month with 5. We do have 2 changes I wanted to note, and these are similar to the changes that we made for this year, 2026, and that is in September. There are 5 Thursdays, and we are moving those to the 2nd and the 4th instead of the 3rd and the 5th, in part to accommodate October, which only has 4 Thursdays. So we're going with the 1st and 3rd, and that is because we need to get all of our rate letters out to our customer communities, haulers, et cetera, by November 1st. So giving us a little bit of extra time versus going right up near the end of October to get those out with the budget approval is beneficial for all involved. So just those 2 changes, slight changes, which reflect what we've already done this year. And Cassie will be sending out all of your calendar holds for 2027 soon.
Okay, thank you. Eric?
Yep, so the next item here on the agenda is the 3-year plan report. In the interest of time, I'm going to draw your attention to the packet for a full detail, but I'll just quickly go through some of these topics. So as we put together the three-year plan for the commission, we want to make sure that we're reporting on this, talking about progress. So I'm just going to do progress report now and not get into the details, but on our ERP, EAM, Enterprise Resource Planning, and Enterprise Asset Management, just want to say it's progressing nicely. I need to acknowledge the team. You're going to hear that over and over again as we go through some of these topics. That team has been working very diligently to keep this project on task, on budget, and make hard decisions as we go. We're transitioning from an outdated system into something that is what we would call a current system. We have everything from definitions and words that we have to learn to new processes that we're trying to figure out and be as efficient as possible. So I'm pausing and acknowledging all the staff that have been working on that. The next item is liquid processing phase 2. Repeat, acknowledging all the staff that worked on that. We have got the bids back. We are seeing that at the next meeting for approval to move that project from the design phase to construction phase. Next item, biosolids and heat and power. You've heard lots about that today and how that impacts the district, its rates. That is moving along. We are trying to finish up the biosolids facility plan in August and then to be at the commission. So that's the highlight there. Collection system capacity analysis. So that is the work that's coming. We talked about this within the updates when we brought this as a topic. Dane County, fastest growing county in the state by twice as much. We need to make sure our pipes are big enough and our pumps are able to deal with the capacity that is needed by our communities as they grow. So that's supposed to kick off in 2027. Sewer use ordinance, acknowledgement of staff. We made it after a lot of hard work to get to the version we're at now. We know there's many things that we want to continue to work on and improve on. So starting that process in 2027, do it again. This is going to take community input, action, our staff, lots of time there, so we're monitoring that. And then the next two items, I just want to quickly update as we get to the end of this year, early next year, we'll be back at the commission, or I will be, to discuss these two projects possibly coming off the three-year plan and what goes on. So we have an interesting situation with the strategic plan. As a commission, when you want to just, this is the way we do business versus highlighting it every meeting or every quarter. And then for executive director performance review, we're getting to that point where we're going to have that first process done by the end of this year. Are we going to highlight something else? I do have lots of ideas that I'll bring back to the commission for that, but feel free to think of those for yourselves too as we go through. You heard the budget presentation. You know what I think is important. If there are things you want in there, we'll do that too. So in the interest of time, unless there's questions, we'll be done with that.
Greg?
This is just a comment request. CARPC is rewriting their water quality plan for Dane County. There was a outreach meeting Monday and Tuesday of this week. One of the issues that came up at that public engagement meeting was nitrates and farm use, and biosolids came up as part of that and the district's land application. So the ask here is, I think this is under Marty's group, to have Marty reach out to Jason Valerius at CARPC and just touch base, right? Because you're changing your biosolids plan at the same time they're updating their water quality plan, which for anybody who is interested has not been really touched since 1978, so it is really old. So the goal here for me, my big thing for this, is to make that water quality plan for CARPC useful and consistent with what the district is doing and the way the water quality plan is currently done. It's inconsistent with all the regulations that all the cities have to do for their stormwater requirements as well. So the goal here, and I think Jason's goal as well, is to align that, and you're part of it. So.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Just a quick, just for the public and anyone watching who won't be a part of this, like all of us at this table will today, we're sort of right at the cusp of transitioning from our old executive director annual review process to the new one that we've been working on as a subcommittee with our consultants at MGT. So today we do a closed session where we're reviewing the last 6 months, and those are, we're looking at goals that we created under the old sort of process or the interim process, and then we'll be transitioning next meeting. There will be another closed session where we go into looking at setting goals for the coming period. And with MGT's facilitation help, they'll be a part of that as well. And then beyond that, the subcommittees this fall will implement sort of our first round of actually using our new process with some 360-degree review components built in, and all the rest of what we did a little bit of a overview on. I think it was last meeting or 2 meetings ago. And so that's the path we're on, and it's all feeling pretty good. And so we're doing it. We're making the turn now here in July. Thanks.
Greg, anything?
We have a meeting this coming Monday, which, gentlemen, I will not be able to attend. I appreciate you, yeah, I know. You're so excited, Dan. I appreciate you meeting without me. Thank you.
Okay, regulatory and legal, Paul?
Morning. First of all, it's good to be back with you. I'll be here for the next couple of months. For those of you that haven't heard, Vanessa had her baby on July 4th, and mother and child are doing well. So, it's very exciting. Gosh, you step away for a while and you come back, and some things don't change. And the world, in the regulatory realm, is a lot about PFAS. And has changed. It seems to be an uptick both at the department and on the federal level. And what the regulatory review highlights is a number of things in our groundwater rules on PFAS. Their technical advisory committee is continuing to meet, and we continue to be a part of that. The land application guidance came out, and had revised its limit from 150 parts per billion to 100 parts per billion. I think given the work that we've done here on monitoring biosolids, that's not going to be us, but it is something that is likely to have an impact on some other communities. And then there is a general permit out being worked on for land application. The other thing, just to note on the EPA side, is that there are some additional revisions to PFAS drinking water, so that will continue. We'll continue to monitor these other things. I know facilities planning and a few other things are continuing to go on. In Vanessa's absence, we're going to make sure that all of those meetings are covered either by myself or Clara or one of our partners. So I forward to seeing you again next time.
Okay, thank you, Paul. So the future meeting schedules in the packet, and for those of you who will be here next year, you'll be getting a mailbox full of appointments. So that will take us to number 6, A and B. Excuse me. The commission may convene in the closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 1985 1G for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel of the commission, was rendering advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the commission with respect to litigation, and in which it is or is likely to become involved regarding the following cases: numbers 25 CV 597, 25 CV 255, 25 CV 596, 25 CV 2052. And convene in closed session in accordance with 1985 1C of the Wisconsin statute to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which a governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Executive Director Performance Review. Do I have a motion to go into closed session on both those items?
So moved, Commissioner Meyer.
Motion by Commissioner Meyer, second by Commissioner Clark. Second by Commissioner Clark. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bookland?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark? Commissioner Freeze? Commissioner Hubble?
Aye.
Commissioner Longkella? Commissioner Lytle,
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer, Commissioner Murphy,
Aye.
Commissioner Pultz.
Okay, motion carries. We'll meet in the other room.
And those that are on the webinar with legal, I'll be adding you to the closed session breakout room in just a moment. And then Lee, when they're ready for you for that second closed session topic, then we'll move you into the closed session. But for the meantime, we'll have you just stay in the main webinar.
Okay, I will give you there's a motion by Commissioner Murphy, second by Commissioner Bookland to go back into open session. We did a roll call vote. Everybody was aye, except Badri. Badri departed sometime between 10 and 10:15. I think it was right at the conclusion of the 6A, the takings issue. So Badri didn't vote. So we're reconvening in open session. Two things to report in regard to item 6A. The commission discussed the cases and provided direction to legal counsel. And in regard to 6B, the commission is satisfied with Eric's performance and he will receive an appropriate merit increase. And that will take us to future agenda topics. Other business. Motion to adjourn, Ken?
Commissioner Clark, motion to adjourn.
I can't see if you had it read or not with the backpack there, so motion by Ken, second by Greg.
Commissioner Freeze, second.
Second by Commissioner to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you.